So it seems like Cyberpunk 2077 is just the gift that keeps on giving at this point. Last month we got a surprise 2.2 update with a bunch of new hidden stuff and Easter eggs to find. In this video, which has become a yearly tradition at this point, we'll be uncovering another 25 hidden free gifts in and around Night City. Also, sorry this one didn't quite drop on Christmas Day this time. I moved house the week before and getting everything set up took a bit longer than expected. I'll do better next year, I guess this year now. Anyway, on with the video. At number 1 is a little hidden gem found out in the Eastern Badlands, not too far north of the desert film set. This region, out in the middle of nowhere, seems to be prime real estate for movie shoots, as here we can find another, albeit a far more creepy one, that being a mass of bodies laying face down in a pond of blood, or so it would seem. It soon transpires that this pool is actually solid, and the bodies are only in fact mannequins. This was the movie set of Hell Lake 3, and a shard to the cast and crew confirms that the horror studio behind it was forcibly shut down after their main sponsor, Constitutional Arms, pulled their funding. This made the studio financially insolvent, unable to pay their staff nor even to clear the movie set. Hence, we can still find it abandoned and slightly terrifying. Only slightly though, because this Easter egg doesn't actually lead us into any further esoteric conspiracies. It's just a cool place to visit, but the same can't be said for all of the entries in this video. Down instead in the southern Badlands, just northeast of the fuel station, is an encounter far more insane. Yet another mass of bodies, real ones this time, all electrically hooked up to some sort of mainframe. This wasn't a freak accident either. It was a coordinated effort by the group to unalive themselves, and the nearby shard has an interesting reason as to why. I've talked in many videos about the coming AI extinction event in this world, where the demons from beyond the black wall managed to wrestle full control over the physical world, deleting humanity like morsels of outdated code. The AIs surpassing human intelligence at speeds entirely incomprehensible to us. So this groupthink little real-world subreddit got together and hatched a plan to escape the coming apocalypse, using, I presume, Soul Killer-like technology to upload their minds into a digitized mainframe, an ark, if you will, destroying their bodies in the process but boarding their minds into the ark and escaping to the one place that hasn't or won't be corrupted by AI demons.
Space!
So, did it work? Did the cobbled together silo successfully manage to house the souls of all these deceased? Did they successfully reach their new frontier? Let me know in the comments what you think. And this whole thing also is oddly familiar to Alt's ultimate plan, I think. A new thing added with 2.2, now if you go to Tom's Diner, you'll find the place is full of cops. And like a lot of cops. Cops guarding the entrance, cops eating lunch, meeting with Arasaka agents, and even a MaxTac squad is there too, enjoying a drink off the clock, but still nonetheless in uniform. No longer does one have to fight through multiple hordes of NCPD then if they want to summon MaxTac. They can simply come here instead. What's more, MaxTac specialist Thornton Merrimack is also parked just outside. Now, it is possible to own one of these ourselves already, but not one quite like this. Fair warning though, stealing the cops' prized vehicle will aggro the entire diner, including MaxTac themselves, so be ready for that. Otherwise, cool little addition to 2.2. And whilst you're at Tom's Diner, you might as well head up on the roof for the other Easter egg to be found here. This one's been in the game a little while longer, and is a direct fourth wall break by, and literally of, CDPR themselves. Staring through these binoculars and centering them on this cardinal bird over here, which is of course CDPR's logo, will, after not too long, flash on screen a literal company photo of CDPR smiling and waving to presumably a drone camera. The picture will stay up for as long as you want, so you can pick out the faces of anyone you know, like Pavel Sasko, who I actually couldn't find, but maybe you can. A lovely little nod to the people who brought this incredible game to life. Here's an easy weapon that you can get for free in the stash right at the start of the game. Scorch is definitely somewhere up there in the better half of Cyberpunk's pistols, and does exactly what the name would suggest. It scorches people. And when then shooting an enemy who is on fire, ammunition won't actually deplete from the gun anymore, helping to avoid reloading for a potentially very long time. And best of all, you don't really need to have to do anything in-game to get it. Instead, you'll have to link your Steam account to GOG, or link whatever platform you play onto GOG, and then in GOG itself, simply redeem the free-to-play standalone Gwent game. This whole gun is a big nod to Gwent, and a clever way for CDPR to tempt even more of their player base into a couple rounds of the Witcher 3 minigame.
Care for a round of Gwent?
But it's also a free and powerful gun for the start of a new playthrough, so well worth doing. Here's an awesome little obscure encounter down in Rancho Coronado. In the shipping crates next to Arasaka Industrial Park is a tuned-up robot standing over a pile of dead bodies. On approach, it will attack us too, forcing us to eliminate the thing, and the 6th streeters on the ground are the key to what happened. You see, these guys were in the business of resetting robot models to then be resold on the black markets, but this latest one hadn't apparently integrated Asimov's laws properly. That's a direct reference to iRobots, with the 3 robot laws being to never harm or allow a human to come to harm, always take orders from a human unless it conflicts with the first law, and to always protect itself, provided no conflict with laws 1 and 2. So, I guess the robots in Cyberpunk are then governed by the same laws, apart from all the security ones that try to kill us over and over again. This one at least though was from a faulty supplier, turned haywire and murdered its engineers. And by scanning it then, we can confirm that it's affiliated with the Wraiths, who themselves, I guess, have no concept of right and wrong, so why then would they program such morals into their machines? Let me know if you found this one already, or if it's the first you're hearing of this too. And if you're tired of being let down by older, slower, less optimized tech, if you can't run games you love at settings you crave, then this new year, perhaps it's time to get a new PC. Apex gaming PCs have a huge variety of customizable models, with all their towers looking aesthetically awesome. Though, more importantly, they can make your games look that way too. If you're primarily playing Cyberpunk, then I'd suggest cross-referencing their range with this chart to get your desired perfect graphics. The Apex Streamer, or Streamer Plus for instance, will run the game well at 1080 and 1440, which still to be fair looks incredible, and if you're after 4K, then take a look at their more upmarket models. There's a 25% off sale currently until January the 7th, but if that time's passed already, then use my code SAM for 10% off. Another thing massively expanded on in 2.2 is the Crystalcoat Twintone feature. Previously only available on Rayfield vehicles in the past, we can now change the colors of all our Herrera, Mitsutani, Quadra, and Villafort vehicles as well, which I think makes up for like half of the ones that we can own now. And whilst designing our own color schemes is fun, what's more of a treasure hunt is finding the various unique color schemes on other vehicles out in the world. Now, some of these are labeled generic, generally involving a more basic pattern and applicable to a wider range of vehicles, whilst some then are labelled in gold as unique and will even flag up just which compatible car models they'll actually be able to apply to. Generally, these are limited to only a few vehicles, so there's plenty of various ones to find around Night City. It also makes appearance far less of a factor when choosing your favourite cars now, and becoming more about which unique twin tones are our favourites and which cars they apply to. And okay, fine, this isn't technically a free gift, we have to pay a nominal sum to acquire each twin tone, but honestly, compared to the price of most things in this game, 250 eddies is an expense you're all but likely not to notice, even if you're doing it over and over again. The best places to find said unique twin tones though, are in the more wealthy areas, so North Oak, the Arasaka Residence, Gold Beach Marina, and the Heavy Hearts Club. But there's plenty generally out on the road as well. There's also a mystery machine skin for the Mahir Supron, though sadly we can't get that one with twin tone for ourselves, but I did find a few vehicles with it around North Oak, so it's fairly common I think. An utterly brilliant, easily missed, and possibly mislabeled weapon now, Osprey is one of the best free guns we can obtain in Phantom Liberty. Technically a sniper, though functioning much more like Halo's battle rifle in my opinion, we have the options of powerful, singular, and precise hipfire headshots, automatic hipfire, or triple burst shots when aiming down the sights. I personally like the precision hipfire the most, but it's cool to have a range of choices. We never really got guns with multiple options and modifications, at least not in this game. And the reason I say this one is hidden is because it becomes available during the Birds with Broken Wings quest from a crate down in the FIA hideouts. A crate we are never specifically pointed towards, and it's all too easy to blitz off after the quest marker and miss it completely. So make sure to come back here if you did that, through the back door of the Moth Bar if need be. Or if that's no longer opening, then check with Herald, the chromed up weapon vendor at the stadium. I've talked a lot about the lowliest, scummiest characters of Night City on this channel before. Generally extreme braindance scrollers who record grotesquely screwed up scenarios for the thrill of their viewers. Godfred and Frederick Persson have their names all over Night City, and Jotaro Shobo even more so. One name that you probably haven't heard of to add to that list though is Jax Kermith, another scroller of XBDs, this time with a seeming fetish for fattening people up. So when a fan sends in a special request to feed someone with enough meat until, quote, their stomach bursts, Jax can't resist. He can be found down in a very obscure alley in Vista del Rey, having then received his own comeuppance. Maybe the fan was secretly a family member of one of the victims now exacting their revenge, or maybe they really were as screwed up as their conversation would suggest, merely finding it more exciting to make Jax himself the victim. Either way, it's a reminder that V isn't the only vigilante dealer of justice around Night City. Hey, maybe the unknown fan here was even Mercman before he disappeared. Here's a fun new little 2.2 Easter egg. If we head up to the Northside docks at nighttime and up northwest of the fast travel points, we can trigger an event whereby two cars are playing a game of chicken, seeing how close each can drive to one another before one caves and swerves. Only, in this instance, playing on the edge of a dock probably wasn't the best idea, as one of the cars swerves straight into the ocean whilst the other speedily zooms off. Diving down after the drowned car, we get yet another of my favorite ambient storytelling devices used in this game. A shard, this time telling the tale of Needles, a guy who scored eddies winning games of chicken with a seeming addiction to blue glass, a cyberpunk hallucinogen drug, and possibly a reference to Breaking Bad, though I think the thing was possibly thought up long before that. What is definitely a reference though here is Back to the Future, with Needles being a character in the sequels who attempts to goad Marty McFly into unfavorable choices by simply calling him chicken. Probably the stupidest plot device of those sequel films, but it's such a meme now that I kind of love it. And here too, the shard has a reference to Marty, although he's recently died in this timeline, having seemingly flatlined the week before playing this same game. Also, there's endotrizine in a crate here, the same thing we take in order to hand Johnny control, and interestingly, it's here described as only available on the black markets. I'd love all these little extra Easter eggs that they've continued to add over the years, and here's to hoping that CDPR never really stop adding little ones in subsequent updates now, at least until Orion. If you're looking to squeeze even more out of your Cyberpunk playthrough, then one thing I hadn't actually fully done until very recently is setting a new high score in the Trauma Drama arcade game. This thing has quite a bit of a learning curve to it, and the difficulty can be off-putting at first. Fortunately, Update 2.2 made doing this a little easier by lowering the necessary high score. Whereas before, you basically had to complete all 3 levels and 18 stages of this game without dying, I managed to beat the top score now while still dying I think 4 times in my run. And here's some pro tips to help with winning here. Firstly, try to kill every enemy you see. That's the main way that you're going to rack up points in the game, and points are all that really matter with this in the end. Also, don't die. And I mean that seriously, dying costs 10,000 points, and we need over 401,210 now to beat the high score. It's only possible to rack up about 450k on a perfect run in total, so take the game slow and prioritize surviving above everything else. If you die more than 5 times, I guess, then you may as well just quit and start over again if you're going for those high scores. Though maybe do a trial run or 2 first, just to learn all the levels and the 3 bosses. There's a great Steam community resource which helped me with this, which I've linked down below. But with that finally done, we'll actually get a text triggering a new side quest. Having proven our superior reflexes with our new high score, Trauma Team want to offer us an unpaid internship. Aren't we lucky? Just head over to their website, click apply, and wait for the application to be rejected. Yeah, that's right. All that work for nothing. No hidden Trauma Team questline, I'm afraid. At least not in this game. But there is a consolation prize, which is arguably better. Now we have to head down to the med center, where we can pick up a mini Trauma AV and our very own Trauma Team uniform, which makes sense of course considering we won't be doing the job. The AV actually flies around our apartment, which is very cool and now making me want one in real life, and I guess the uniform is the sort of thing we could wear when inviting Judy over in her MaxTac uniform. Whilst we're up in our apartment though, let's quickly talk about Smartframes, the ability to now mount our various photo mode masterpieces in our own in-game apartments. The frames directly access our photo mode folder, which generally, at least on Windows, is found in our main photo directory, in a file labeled Cyberpunk 2077. Cool enough in and of itself, especially with the newly expanded photo mode, which we'll get to, but arguably cooler is what happens when we paste photos into that folder from elsewhere. Basically, just drop anything in PNG form in here. It possibly also needs to be a 16:9 ratio, so try that if they're not coming up. But what this means is that we can now put our own IRL photos, any photos really I suppose, into our game. You can line your walls with Gandalf bopping along to some epic sax. You can even add pictures of yourself posing with Johnny Silverhands. And okay, actually seeing myself literally in the game in V's apartment feels weirder than I expected, but in a very cool way. I would definitely recommend. And still in the apartments technically, another arcade game worth winning. Well, I say worth winning. Worth winning if you want to scrape the barrel of rewards possible to obtain in this game, which I imagine most of you actually do. Roach Race is of course a massive reference to the Witcher franchise, with the musical score of the game even being retro versions of The Witcher 3's soundtrack. Honestly, that fact was her saving grace for me, as I spent hours attempting to beat the high score of Ziriel, a reference itself to Ciri, suggesting that perhaps she did visit this world. Now, I said the aim of trauma drama was not dying, and with Roach Race, that's even worse. You'll have to get through about 7 or 8 levels to beat Ziriel's score without dying, grabbing as many apples and carrots as you can to build up that score quicker. Make use of the triple jump glitch mechanic to get out of impossible situations, and other than that, just sort of practice for as long as it takes to get the top score. After this, we'll get a text, and in our apartment we'll find some nice rewards, including the Roach Whisperer outfit. Awesome, especially for anyone running a revolver build, and the Shard Roach Race, based on true events, explaining the reason that Roach bolted in the first place is after finding out that she wasn't Geralt's first Roach, and that her odds of dying were no doubt high. So yes, all of this is a free prize in the monetary sense, but may take a fair bit of time to actually get there. It's a difficult and unforgiving game. Here's a fun little obscure encounter out in the Badlands. Right down here, in the southeast between some rocks, a dramatic scene played out, which, as usual, is recounted fully on a shard. An officer named Jesse Wedge and his partner arrested a merc named Ian Zane, but on the way to the police station, Zane convinced the officers to take a detour into the Badlands, where he promised that he'd buried a small fortune after his last gig, an attempted bribe on the officers with hopes of buying back his freedom. Though there is a question as to how Officer Jesse plans to split the cut of money with his partner. Unfortunately for Ian Zane, no sooner had he dug up the suitcase than he was seemingly immediately shot dead, leaving no witnesses to the police corruption, I guess. But after that, the greed of the two officers was greater still. Both clearly desired all of the cash for themselves, thus resulting in them both shooting each other at exactly the same time. So the only winner here really is us, when stumbling upon the scene, scoring a nice payday and a unique solo t-shirt. If you haven't done so already in 2.2, then be sure to head to your nearest Ripperdoc and choose the character customization option. There's a ton more things to choose from now, with eyes especially getting a massive overhaul. Want multiple irises, some weird symbol, or even a company logo to see the world with? Well, yeah, now you can have that. There's also company-specific nail and lip makeup, such as trauma teams, to I guess go under our uniform from the arcade game, and there's also far more obvious faceplate options, because that was a very common sight on many NPCs around Night City. And one thing which I think is especially cool is the new bullet hole forehead scar, because, you know, V was actually shot in the head there. Kind of ugly, sure, and no doubt the cosmetic advancements of this world could erase that very easily, but it's there if you do want the constant reminder and little bit of roleplay. And how can I talk about new 2.2 stuff without briefly touching on all the amazing stuff we can do now with photo mode? Adding several in-game characters into frames alongside us is for one gonna make my life a lot easier. I no longer have to seek out as many specific points in-game to get photos of certain characters for various thumbnails, nor is there the need to find as optimal lighting locations. We can now move around our own extra light sources to set the scene and illuminate things like faces much better. Though there's also still the standard adjustments of brightness, contrast, and highlights. Also, make sure to scroll down the stickers to find Justice for Rebecca, as I think Pavel Sasko was complaining that he hadn't seen anyone find that, and it is a very cool little feature. Though I've got to say my favorite thing about photo mode now is that it unlocks an ability only previously available using the FreeCam mod. By turning off full collision now, we can fly around pretty far and through locked walls and doors to see what's behind them. Sure, we won't actually be able to get the items behind attribute locked doors still, but we can at least get an idea behind what's hiding in secret locked rooms. Or we can find out that there is in fact no secret room at all and you're obsessing over a suspicious door for nothing. Now I get that photo mode isn't for everyone, but this at least is a utility well worth using to observe previously unreachable parts of the game. So this next one is definitely hidden, definitely free, and certainly to some,
It is a gift.
However, in order to experience this one, you'll first need to reach one of the endings where we go to the Arasaka rainforest and come to the big conference table at the back. And you'll want to go into whichever of the endings with a cyberdeck equipped, else you won't be able to do this. And with that, you'll want to cast Distract Enemies on the table itself. And what could possibly be more distracting to Arasaka guards than this? Now, whilst Sir John Fallerstiff and the BFC 9000 may be more exciting gifts than this, it's certainly a fun little thing to do if you come across this table on your ending path, distracting the guards as they call in a code 69, with the last thing they see being a giant hologram of Sir John.
In 2077, what makes someone a criminal? Getting caught.
Another hidden encounter in the Badlands now, and this one showcases firsthand how deadly moon-based weaponry can be to literally anyone standing out in the open on Earth. Peter Feldheimer was a conspiracy theorist, living out in an RV in the middle of nowhere, connecting dots and finding patterns where there most likely are none. And today, Peter has uncovered some secret intel about Weldon Holt, mayoral candidate. Intel confirming that Holt is working with Arasaka, which, okay, is actually true, we can find that out for ourselves, but Peter then thinks the best people to contact about this is the base on the moon. Of course, they couldn't care less and repeatedly request that Peter stop taking up bandwidth on the moon channel, warning him repeatedly that his life is now in danger, and if he doesn't back off, they will be forced to eliminate him. Peter doesn't listen, and after a countdown of 3, all that's left is some presumably very well-made shoes, as a Death Star-like beam is fired from the moon itself, with absolute pinpoint accuracy onto Peter's location. I mean, look at that. Look at how just on point it is to where his shoes are. So fuck around with the moon people and find out, I guess. I really hope we get to go there in Orion. Please, CDPR, please do that. And all the little encounters like this each do that little bit to show off more of this game's crazy lore. Another, more under-the-radar monster living in Night City is actually a direct reference to Baba Yaga. You know, the witch that kidnaps and eats children. Over in Wellsprings, if we drop down the road west of Mega Building H2, then double back around the overpass, there's a corrugated shack. Not on chicken legs, but kind of out of place nonetheless. And creeping through a tiny passageway in the back, we'll come across a disturbing sight indeed. Firstly, a couple of people kept in cages as a nod to the literal activities of Baba Yaga, but the deceased Netrunner's shard then gives this whole thing a cyberpunk twist. With a Netrunner name of 8 Yaga, or B Yaga I suppose, this evil woman enjoyed finding children online and was apparently somehow able to lure them out beyond the Blackwall. I guess a small operation like this could potentially go undetected by Netwatch, tricking them first to come to her in real space, then I guess feasting on their bodies whilst launching their souls into the deep nets. Anyway, she was eventually tricked by the brother of one of her victims, who after getting her real-world location was able to flatline this monster. From her body, we can then obtain a legendary net-running suit, which I guess she needed to punch past the Blackwall. So I guess this woman was in league with, or perhaps possessed by one of the demons from beyond. Terrifying stuff, all the same. The only real quest to be added in 2.2 is a text-based treasure hunt and a little crossover with the game Balatro, who themselves featured a set of Cyberpunk cards in their game, so I guess this is CDPR returning the favour. A very simple quest as far as they go, but nonetheless interesting and pleasantly time-consuming. Basically, just wait until you receive a text from a clown called Jim B, who'll set you down this little hunt for quote-unquote rogue jokers, with a number of screenshots for various locations in Night City, which you'll have to travel to, one by one, to pick up the card laying nearby. I'll run through them super quick for anyone who's stuck, but jump to the next timestamp if you want to do this one yourself. So first up, the bus stop next to the Columbarium, then the Phoenix roundabout just up the road from there, followed by Misty's Esoterica. Fourth is the garage roof on top of the Delamain HQ, then a ladder literally just across from the Cannery Plaza fast travel, followed then by the back of the Jinguchi clothing store. Then on top of the glass atrium in City Center, literally in the center. 8th is the giant monk orb statue across from Jig Street. 9 is just inside Jig Street itself in a little club immediately on the right. And finally, just across the road from there, down at the back of the ramen shop below, is our final Joker, and a Joker t-shirt as a reward. There's also a little card ornament waiting for us at our main mega building apartment afterwards too. Overall, fun little new treasure hunt quest and well worth doing. Down in the storm drains of Arroyo, just beside Arasaka's industrial park, is an encounter no doubt most of you will be familiar with. A merc named Arnold Blake has been sent to rescue a boy, Jimmy O'Connor, at the express interest of his mother, who I presume would have a name like Saren or something. The pair then fled into this drain, pursued by a man disguised as a Night City cop, and when shooting back at him, the man, quote, underwent advanced cyborgification, literally turning into a robot as we can see here, and shooting Arnold. Jimmy O'Connor though, seemingly got away. This is obviously a wonderful nod to Terminator 2, albeit with some large creative liberties taken. Instead of the liquid metal T-1000 model, they simply used a standard robot asset, suggesting that originally this thing looked like a human cop, and the advanced cyborgification, a term I keep hearing in Schwarzenegger's voice, which sounds brilliant by the way, literally meant transforming into this. A kind of ridiculous implied plot, and I love it. Just around the corner from Terminator though is another reference, this time to a character from in-game. Bartolomeo Mordellini is a drugs party kingpin of Night City, whom we can see chilling at the bar of Konpeki Plaza during the heist. Later, at the Gold Beach Marina, we can read all about his pleasure yacht docked in the bay where apparently some crazy drug-fueled parties are thrown. But where said drugs often come from is an unassuming Arroyo garage, which, unless you know it's there, you'd probably never even think to open. Inside, we can read about his latest special order, due to be delivered to the marina, hidden in a bed. Just a small thing, a small reference, yes, but yet another reminder of the level of effort CDPR went to tie all these little underlying threads together, to flesh out the smaller stories of Night City with snippets like this around pretty much every corner. And check out my gig series if you want to see the sheer depths that this method of storytelling actually goes to in this game. I know there's been a lot of movie references in this video, but this next one has some seriously cool details. Whilst solos are generally all the talk around Night City, it's also had its fair share of wannabe superheroes. And who in fact fits the bill more of wannabe superhero than Kick-Ass, or as he's known in this universe, Butt Kicker, taking to the streets of Pacifica to clean them up when nobody else will. John Aronson is trying to get all of his superhero antics recorded on a drone, aided in this endeavor by Linda Grace. I just love how they rejig all the names for these Easter eggs. And after taking on the worthy foe of just one scav, Butt Kicker doesn't want to stop there, sadly soon resulting in him falling from this wall to his death. A shame that these batons we can loot aren't unique, but hey ho, we'll always know them as the weapons of Butt Kicker. There's also some body armor here, and the guy was even wearing the balaclava, plus had a police radio to no doubt listen out for crime. So if you're in the Pacifica region, go pay tribute / loot the corpse of the NC superhero that couldn't. And if you're about to tell me that movie references have taken up too much of this video, then I have one more for you. Though, to be fair, I think the taken reference for this one stops with the fact that a guy's daughter was kidnapped and sold into a certain kind of slavery. Run this time by maelstromers up in the northernmost reaches of Northside. This time though, the girl's father didn't possess so much a unique set of skills, but rather just a high-ranking position as a corpo, rocking up here in a bulletproof blazer, which we can loot for ourselves afterwards, to rescue his daughter and deal justice to those that kidnapped her. Except, according to the Shard, seeing his daughter, the guy had a heart attack, with Maelstrom quickly ripping the biomon from his wrist to prevent a visit from Trauma Team. But if they'd paid attention to the scavs mode of operation, they'd know that you can't simply rip a biomonitor out, it's still gonna send the signal. And so, Trauma Team presumably swept in, too late to save Corpo Liam Neeson, but at least through dying, this guy did get his revenge. And his daughter, through simple lack of being here, presumably also survived. So to top this video off, let's head back to not far off from where we started, in the Badlands, a little south of the Hell Lake 3 sets, in the abandoned town of Rocky Ridge, where we'll have come with Panam at one point. A ways beyond the bar, around here on the map, we can find a trailer home with a little basement shelter, stocked full of supplies, weapons, unique clothing, you name it. And according to the journal inside, this was used by the owner back in 2069 during the Unification War between the Free States and NUSA, when troops marched across these lands only to ever occupy the Pacifica districts, which would become Dogtown. But far as this guy was concerned at the time, the end of the world had come, and he seemed almost happy about that fact, able to gloat at the notion that he'd spent out on this shelter, and that yes, it did become a crucial means by which to continue living. Though by 2077 there's no sign of him, so presumably he eventually realized the world hadn't in fact ended and left for greener pastures, like everyone else. Still, there's a fair bit of loot left behind, and it's definitely a point of interest worth checking out when at Rocky Ridge. Now, please comment below any other cool hidden items or Easter eggs you found, so I can hopefully put another list together like this for the next Christmas coming. Though I do feel like the most interesting things are starting to run out a little now, so please do lend a tune a hand so I can keep up this tradition for another year. Thank you as always to the patrons for keeping the channel alive, and now that I'm moved and settled, expect a lot more content coming in 2025, as well as hopefully some streams in the not too distant future. So subscribe for all that. Thank you for watching, I'm Sam Bram, and have a Nova Day. Tunes.